Well, I did it again. I'm not wearing my glasses. These don't fit me exactly right. I know y'all think, well, he's not going to preach so long, and you're wrong. We're in Revelation chapter 6, and I've done a lot of studying. I can't hardly see. My mind's about gone, but I really don't care. Okay? I've enjoyed the study. I've enjoyed preparing, so I'm going to try to share that with y'all. I'm going to try to share what I've enjoyed. You know, I've watched a lot of news in preparing over the last few weeks, and what I've noticed is things just seem to be just rolling and tumbling along. And I saw the Catholic Pope, and he's talking about we need to forget the walls, and everybody needs to just get along, and things are going to be okay. And the world leaders are beginning to talk more about a world peace, and the religious leaders are beginning to talk more and more about coming to Christ just any kind of way you can just get to heaven. There are many different ways now, and we all just let's just get along. And I'm just amazed at that. Jesus said to his disciples, I go and prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'm going to come. And you know the way to get there. I'm going to paraphrase it for you. Thomas said, we don't know how to get there. Jesus said, I am the way. He didn't say there are a lot of different ways. He didn't say you can go through sun, yun, moon. He didn't say you can be a Hindu. He didn't give you a lot of options. He said, I am the way, and He is the only way. And the world says there's going to be a lot of peace. What does the Bible say? Becomes the question. God is bringing judgment. But I want you to know something. According to Revelation, there's going to be some sort of peace. And then the Lamb will become a lion. Look at chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. What shall we say then? Well, I better go to Revelations. That'd be better, wouldn't it? Revelation chapter 6. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out in conquering and to conquer. And I thought, boy, isn't that something? Man, there's going to be a lot of peace around. What's our society saying? A lot of socialism, a lot of welfare, a lot of health care. Health care for everyone at no cost to anyone. And just peace, peace, peace. Sounds good. Looks good on paper, but it never really happens. It just never really happens. Will there really be a time when there will be peace? And so the question actually becomes, what does the Bible actually say about it? You go back and you look at history, And before World War II, England decided they wanted world peace. And so they tried to appease Germany by giving in to Hitler whatever Hitler wanted. And we look back and we realize that it didn't work. Some 60 million people died because of the act of appeasement. All false religions in this land, in the land that we live in, are trying to lure the United States into a false sense of peace. And a lot of these religions blame the United States on the problems of the world. Mark your place and go with me to Matthew chapter 24. Look with me and begin in verse 3. Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us when these things will be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all the nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended and betray one another and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many." It starts with deception. It starts with somebody saying, "I'm the Savior, and I bring peace. I bring peace into this land." And there are many people that come along, even now, and they say, "Listen, it's all right." You cut on the television set and you'll see people that are saying, "Listen, I'm what you need. If you'll just send me your money, you'll have peace in your heart." There are many people around the world that are willing to give you what you think you want if you'll just send them your resources. But then you'll hear such things as wars and rumors of wars. And then there will be such things as tribulations. And you think about what goes on in places far away from here, like Egypt, where they cut off heads, in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Saudi Arabia, where there are persecutions, and where people are hated for what they believe. And there are many, many false prophets. Turn with me, if you will, to 1 Thessalonians in chapter 5 and verse 3. 1 Thessalonians, Paul writes, notice what he says, "For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape." See, the church at Thessalonica was wondering about the end of time, and they were asking Paul what's going on, and Paul tries to reply and say, "Listen, there are going to be people that come, and they say you're going to have peace and safety, but all of a sudden, it's not so." And so John writes, having this vision, and he says, there comes one on a white horse. And as he comes on that white horse, the white horse is representative of peace. You go back to Matthew chapter 24, verses 6 and 7, and you'll notice a progression. The progression is peace, war, famine, and earthquake. Peace, war, famine, and earthquake. When you read Revelation 6, you see the same thing. So look with me again in Revelation chapter 6. And let's get a little picture of what John sees according to the horses. If we were riding back from Holly Bluff, I told Gunner that I was having a hard time with the black horse. You remember that, Gunner? Trying to figure out what the black horse actually meant. And then it kind of dawned on me, and I began to do a little more research. And so it's not really hard to figure out. So in chapter 6, it says, verse 2, and I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow. And that's peace. You say, well, he's a guy on a white horse, and he's armed. But what good is a bow without an arrow? It's useless, right? And so, notice who is on the white horse. It's not necessarily Christ. It is a false prophet. You come to verse 3, when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature said, come and see. Another horse, fiery red, went out. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth. So the red horse goes with war, to take peace from the earth. And there was given to him a great sword. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, come and see. So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hands, and it represents famine. Notice Matthew 24, peace, war, famine. Revelation 6, peace, war, and famine. Then we come to the earthquakes, and that's death. You come to chapter 6 in Revelations, and you get the pale horse, and we all know about the pale horse, right? We all saw the movie, right? On the pale horse, there came a rider. Who's on the pale horse? I'll put it up there for you. Clint Eastwood, right? Y'all remember the pale rider? Death. And so we begin to see the pale rider. So they run hand in hand. So let's go to Daniel. Everybody likes Daniel. And go to Daniel chapter 9. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel chapter 9. And verse 26. And I want to read a little something to you there. Daniel 9:26. And I read a lot of commentaries, and people read a lot of weeks and stuff into this, and I don't really do that. I look at the overall message, and I believe that Revelation is a book, a vision that was given to John to ensure the church about a great victory. It's about victory. But I thought that this was interesting. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. But not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to the sacrifice and offerings. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolation, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolation. It's a lot there, but in summary, let me tell you this. The great judgment is coming. And one day it will be over. And it all will be poured out. And the victory belongs to Christ. That's what he promised to Daniel. That's what Paul promises to the Thessalonians. And that's what John sees in the Revelation. So what you have is a peace pack in chapter 6 of Revelation, verses 1 and 2. It is the same type of peace pack that Russia had with Germany. There would be no attack between Russia and Germany at the beginning of World War II. But all of a sudden, Germany decides that's not how it's going to be. That's the same type thing that we see in Revelations chapter 6, 1 and 2, as the white horse comes out, and everybody in the world thinks there's going to be a great peace, but shortly out comes the red horse. And the great judgment begins, and the end of time starts. And people come before the great judgment throne of God. And those with Christ have great victory. And those without Christ are cast into the lake of fire. The white horse comes out. He's not Christ. He's not armed. There's no bow, no arrows. It's a false peace. It's short-lived. There's judgment, which soon begins. And we're going to stop right there because I can't see. And I'm sorry. Okay? As we go through chapter 6, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay? And we're going to move right through. Any questions? Any comments? It was a quick night, okay? Next week, we'll be here on Sunday morning. Sunday night, I'm going to the convention in Birmingham. Brother Wayne will be in the pulpit. And so Brother Wayne will preach what he wants to preach. We'll have a lot of people gone next week. I know the boys are going to Oklahoma, and we're praying for a safe trip, and they'll represent our church really well, okay? Let's stand. And I'm going to ask our old